behind the scenes at naturaldesign.com studios, where we connect you to nature through the language of flowers. Today we're going to do a video focusing on two different wiring hook methods, and these are especially useful for really wimpy stemmed flowers. So things like dahlias, anemones, and ranunculus. And today we do have some anemones and some ranunculus here to practice with. This will be especially useful for anyone that wants those high-end, really beautiful flowers, but needs them to hold the stem and not wilt by the end of the event. And they're beautiful, but yes, their stems are a little wimpy. So we're going to do something about that today. Florists are your solutionists for floral design, so we are well adept at solving problems, and wire is one method that we use. Today we're going to use a 24 gauge wire. We have our wire cutters, we have clippers, and just in case I get inspired, we also do have some floral tape. This kind of tape is dry and papery, but once you stretch it out, it sticks to itself, and a lot of times it'll wrap around the wire on the stem to help hide it. So let's go ahead and get started. I think the first one we'll practice with is this beautiful anemone. So the first hook method that we'll do with this longer wire here is from the stem up. So we've pre-bent the wire here at the end, and then we're gonna try to weave this wire in up through, like a straw, up through the stem. And we'll just go ahead and start. The inside of the stems on anemones is very straw-like. It's not really strong. So you want to kind of run one hand up at the top of the wire as it's going through the stem, where you can kind of feel it, push it back into the stem as it's feeding up in. Because it is like a straw and a little bit hollow and fibrous on the inside, it's pretty easy to push the wire up through. You want to be careful, and this is what the floral tape is great for. So if the stem is splitting, we can come back and tape it without having to necessarily tape the entire stem all the way to the top. There we go. And not too bad. There's a few places where you can see where the wire did come out of the stem, and we can decide if we do want to tape it or not. Down here you can see how the stem did split, and it's up to you. If you want shorter stems, you can do that. If you do want the full length of the stem, which we'll play with that today with this one, we will go ahead and tape the end there. So now we have a little bit more wire than we need. I'm going to clip the end here and bend that wire up around the bottom of the stem so it's not pointing out there, and that's the hook part of it that they talk about. And next we'll get our floral tape. I'm going to start right about in the middle here, the last point where it started to peek out of the stem, and I'm gonna roll. And you have to be real gentle with these stems. They're not woody at all. They're very fibrous. You can think of it kind of like a stick of celery. It's very, very similar to that if you've ever held a stick of celery. And then we're gonna twist and pinch, but very gently on an anemone, so that the tape is getting stretched, so it'll attach to itself, but we're not crushing that stem. We're just gonna follow down. Every new spin, we're gonna make sure it's overlapping a little bit with the last line of tape. And you want to be careful that the head of your flower is not hitting the table as you're doing this, because these are very fragile. So one bump, a lot of times you sneeze on these guys and they'll just wilt in the wind. Beautiful, but very fragile. And then all the way to the end here. Making sure not to completely cover the end because we do need it to be able to pull water up. For this beautiful anemone. And if it goes into an arrangement, you know, like a bouquet for flowers, or even if you do want to put it in foam or even in a vase, it's going to hold that shape way better than if you left it on its own. They don't last very long on their own, but they're beautiful and they're trending right now, so people love, love, love to use them. I'm just going to clip the little bit of the stem there that's still sticking out so it gets that fresh cut, and then we'll put that guy back in water. So that was an anemone. The next one we'll work on is a ranuncula. These guys are also very, very pretty, but very fragile. They have tons of petals on them. So for a flower like this, if you're trying to flex it or reflex it, sometimes people describe it like that, where you're trying, roses are great for that, where you're trying to put the petals out and open because it's the day of the event. You want the flowers to look really open, but you also were trying to keep them as fresh as you could, as long as you could. A ranuncula responds really well to blowing on it, so that's always kind of a fun trick to know. And then on this one, I'm going to pre-cut it to match the length here for this wire. And for this hook method, we're going to do a reverse where it goes through the bloom first and then gets pulled down in. So this is one method I love to use on dahlias because dahlia stems are, oh gosh, you know, more like this size on the status, but the head of a dahlia sometimes can be just enormous, so it's really heavy, and the stems are also really weak on dahlias. So that's one method that I like to use on dahlias, is kind of like a reverse hook. So here we left the hook on the top part, and instead of going up through the stem, we're going to go down through the bloom. And on this one, it's more important to focus on your hook making a nice secure lock in the middle of the flower head in the center there than it is to worry about if it's inside the stem or not. If you can get it inside the stem, that's great. That would be even stronger, but you can also tape afterward. And we're just pulling it straight down in, just like you would if it was a candy cane. Locking it in. So now you have that hook there in the head, locking down and pulling the head of the flower with the stem, and you have the wire here that is throughout all of it. And we're going to twist that wire around the stem. Just like that. So it's completely reinforced now. So even if it is sad and wanting to droop, it has the wire to help hold it up in that shape. And the wire goes all the way through the head and actually helps hold the head with the hook on the top. And if you want to cover the wire with tape so you can't see it, you can definitely do that. And you would end up with a stem that is green. They also have brown tape as well, and possibly even white, to help make it look natural as well. So those are our two hook methods for wiring fragile stems on beautiful flowers. We did the hook through the head on the ranuncula, and we did the hook through the bottom of the stem on the anemone. And that is our wiring skill technique for the day here at naturaldesign.com. At your floral studio, we'd like to give a very special shout out and thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time.